We did it, you guys. We made it to the last few days of 2024, which means that the new year is basically here. Now, I love the new year. I feel like it's just the fresh start, the excited energy and feeling. It's also like the good vibes after the holiday break. Hopefully you've had some time to like relax, reset a little bit, and it's just the perfect time to set new goals and make your plans for the new year. Now, for me, I also love it because it's time for my absolute favorite video of the year. I get to look back on how the past entire year went with my money, talk to you guys about it, what my reflections are, how I'm feeling on top of just like the actual numbers and stats, and then also make any plans and changes for what I want to change up for 2025. Now, I feel like this year was actually another really good year for me from a money perspective, and what I mean by that is that I stayed pretty focused on my money goals all year long. I kind of felt like while the year was happening though, everything was moving really slowly, but in hindsight, now that I can kind of see everything now that the year is done, it was definitely moving slowly but surely at the same time. Now, for anyone who's new and to start off, I'm Steph. I used to work a 9-to-5 corporate job in HR. That's what I went to university for and graduated with and started doing. But then over the last 3.5 years, I've been self-employed. My boyfriend, Dennis, and I, we quit our jobs. We started running our own business, posting personal finance content online, basically making money simple is like the main thing we do on all the different platforms. And I think I said in last year's video, so at that time we would have been self-employed for about 2.5 years. Then I said it was our first like stable year, but now that this year's done in hindsight, this was definitely our first actual like a full year, entire 12 months calendar year in a row where everything was really steady, consistent, and stable. So that was definitely really nice to have a pretty steady, consistent, slow but sure. I feel like those are my terms for the year. But now I'm gonna get into actually covering the specifics, talk about everything that happened, specifically how much money I saved and invested, all of those details, and then I'm gonna hop into my plans for what I'm changing up and want to do differently for 2025. So let's get into it. Okay, I'm popping in from a different day here with a reminder that our brand new investment course called Simple Investing for Canadians has officially dropped and it's now available for purchase. This course covers everything that you need to know in order to start investing in the stock market the simple way. There's hours of video content, there's a bunch of downloadable resources, you get a personalized investing game plan, oh, and you get added to our private community too. You can actually sign up now and get your account all set up, and then the actual course content itself will be available on January 15th. You can find more information down in the description box below, so please check that out. But for now, let's get back to the video. So let's start from the very beginning of the year. Now, one of the first like money decisions that we have at the beginning of the year or end of December, beginning of January is how much money we're going to pay ourselves out for the year. And this year we decided to increase our monthly income. Now, to explain a little bit more about how this works for us, like I said before, we're self-employed, which means that we have a bit more control over, well, in some ways more control, in some ways less, but over how we're paying ourselves out, how much money we're paying ourselves out. And we like to decide at the beginning of January or end of December what we're doing for the next year. Now, to explain it a little bit more, we have our business and our business bank accounts, and that's where all of the money we make gets deposited into. So when we make money from any of our different income sources, it doesn't go right to us personally. Instead, it goes into the business and the business bank accounts first. Then we're actually employees of our business. That's how we have it set up. So we get paid our monthly salary, just like any other employee would technically. We just get to see kind of both sides of it, right? So from the business and then from the employee side. Now, last year, throughout pretty much the entire year, at least the majority of 2023, we paid ourselves out $3,050 a month. But then this year, starting right from the beginning of the year in January, going all the way through to December, we decided to pay ourselves out $4,459 a month, which was a pretty big jump up. I think our biggest jump up in a year. Now, the main reason that we wanted to increase our monthly income, and also the reason for that income bump in general, was so that we'd have more money to invest every month. So the plan was to bring in $4,459 a month each. I don't know if I highlighted that before, but this is each. So we both get the $4,459 a month. And then of that, we'd be able to invest $2,000 per month each and then spend from the other $2,459 a month. Now, having this higher income this year felt so nice. I don't know if you guys have been following along from the past years, but it's definitely been, I don't know, just an adjustment over time, switching to having to set our own salaries in the first place. We obviously had an income dip at first as well. So having this income just felt so great. It was so nice being able to actually see my investment accounts go up by $2,000 a month every single month, but still have a decent amount of money to spend. Now, keep in mind that the $2,459 a month, that's for every single expense. So rent, fixed expenses, and variable variable. So it definitely still involves budgeting, which you know that we're on top of, but it just felt really good. It felt right. It felt nice. And like I said before, the biggest adjustment was really, especially for me, I feel like, was the instability of seeing your accounts grow. Pretty much right from when I graduated university, I got to see those gradual increases. So it was kind of on pause for a few years. So this year, it just felt very nice to have that. So I did stick to that plan, and I was able to invest $2,000 a month every single month, which is definitely really exciting. On the spending side of things, I did go a little bit over budget, spent a little bit more than I planned to. So obviously the goal was to spend an average of $2,459 a month. Instead, if I actually go to my budget tracker, it's really nice because on the annual tab, I can see exactly how much money I spent per month and also per category. So it's very easy to see that my actual average per month spending was $2,633 per month instead. So basically $174 more per month. Obviously that adds up after 12 months of the year as well. So a little bit over budget there. Now, I feel like at first, it's really nice having all these numbers in our budget tracker. I feel like people think that tracking your budget and all your exact numbers is scary. And it can be at first. Sometimes seeing things is jarring. Not so much for me because I feel like I update it every week, so I'm always checking in. But seeing the end of year totals is still kind of crazy. But when I was really reflecting on it, I'm definitely not upset about this from like a high level, and I will tell you why. Main thing is that I was comparing to my spending for last year, and I ended up spending almost $5,000 less this year. I think pretty much exactly $5,000 less, which is really crazy. Last year I spent $37,000. Yeah, $37,000 for the year, and this year I spent about $32,000. So major decrease there. And then if we actually go more granular and look on like the monthly average basis again, my monthly average spending last year was over $3,000. It was, I think, $3,087 a month. This year, again, $2,633. So even though I was slightly over budget on a monthly basis, what a massive decrease from last year. Now, obviously these numbers tell me that I spent a lot less money this year, but to actually paint the picture as to why that was, a few different things. One, I definitely had a few bigger one-off expenses that don't happen every single year last year that I didn't have this year. But even more than that, it was that I was way more intentional with my budget and my spending this year. Like I said, I feel like my theme for this year is that I really stuck to and was pretty focused on my different money goals. And this is one of those areas that show it. Now, one of the biggest changes was definitely on eating out in restaurants. I spent about $2,500 less on that category this year, which still blows my mind, even though I'm very aware of it because I was doing it every single month. So happy to see that final total. I also spent less in a ton of different categories. I spent less in coffee shops, Ubers, personal care, travel, and also the other category, which is kind of broad. That was where some of my like one-off bigger expenses were last year. But in general, it was basically a bunch of little changes in a ton of different areas that ended up bringing my overall spending down this year. But in general, overall, I spent a lot less money this year. I made some major improvements to my spending, specifically in my intentionality. Spending money isn't a bad thing, right? As long as it fits into your budget, but you want to be intentional about it. So I'm really happy. Even though I wasn't quite on my monthly budget goal, hopefully I'll make more improvements for that last year. I still made major improvements this year, and for that, I'm happy. Okay, so now let's jump back into talking about investing a little bit more specifically. Now, like I said before, I was able to stick to doing my $2,000 a month investment contribution. So obviously that means that after 12 months of the year, I invested $24,000. And then at the end of the year, Dennis and I also decided on paying ourselves out a $10,000 end of year bonus. Of that, I've decided that I'm going to put $8,000 into my investments as well. So that means that I was able to contribute a total of $32,000 throughout the year, including that end of year bonus contribution too, which is definitely really exciting. Now, the other thing that I also had happen this year was, unfortunately, also very gratefully, I received an inheritance as well, and I did put all of that money into my investment account as well, specifically my RRSP. So that means that I was actually able to increase my overall investments for this year by about $50,000, which was a really big jump up, and it also helped me hit a lot of my different money milestones and goals as well. Now, to go over a few of those big milestones, I hit a $100,000 personal net worth earlier this year. That one was very exciting. I also remaxed out my TFSA, so that means I maxed it out for the second year in a row now. I also started using and maxed out my FHSA for now, and I opened up and started using my RRSP too. Also, I should definitely mention that I actually switched up my investing strategy and how I go about investing my money this year. So I started using a self-directed investment platform and investing on my own. For the last 3 years up until this year, I was using a robo-advisor to invest, but now I do it completely by myself, DIY approach. Now, basically how that works is that every month I transfer $2,000 from my checking account to my investing account, and then I myself myself purchase shares of an ETF with that money. Now, I did that with my TFSA until it was maxed out. Then I started putting the money into my FHSA instead until that was maxed out. And then for the last few months of the year, I've been doing it with my RSP, which isn't maxed out yet, so I'm still using that right now. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my Wealthsimple account right now. And if you look at that, you can see all three of my accounts right here. For my TFSA specifically, my contribution limit for 2024 was $69,500. So everything over that amount is the growth that I've had in my account up until this point. For my FHSA, my current contribution room limit is $8,000. So again, everything over that is just the growth that it's had. And then my RSP, I've contributed $40,000 so far. So everything over $40,000 is the growth that I've had so far. Now I'm going to talk more about all of these different accounts in my investment end of year results update that's going to be coming out in a few weeks. So make sure you stay tuned for that because I'm going to go way more in depth on everything that happened with my investments specifically. Okay, so that's pretty much it for everything that happened with my money in 2024. So now I want to talk about what's changing, what's coming up, what the plans are for 2025, which is crazy, by the way. Cannot believe that it's 2025 now, or pretty much now. Okay, so first thing that we always look at, like I said before, is our income. So this year, we're actually keeping our monthly income the exact same. We're going to be paying ourselves out $4,459 per month each. Now, this is actually the first year, I'm pretty sure the first year that we're planning on keeping our salaries the same, not bumping them up, and we don't necessarily have any plans or projections to bump them up throughout the next year either. Now, every single year, end of November, early December, we have a conversation with our accountant where we look at how our business did for the last year, we look at all of our numbers, and we have the conversation and make the decision about our income. And if there's a reason for us to want to bump it up, if we think we can, all of those different factors that come into play, which obviously there's a lot of that I can't cover everything right now. But for this year, we're pretty content with where our salaries were at and decided we wanted to keep it the same. We're also just really happy that we were able to sustain our business over the last year, do a great job with all of our income sources, everything that's coming in, where we can maintain the salary and still continue to pay ourselves out those lump sum end of year bonuses too, which hopefully we'll be able to do at the end of next year as well. Now, obviously our plan could in theory change throughout the year, but that's our plan as of the beginning of January, end of December. That's what we're going to be sticking with for now. And because my salary is staying the same, going to be paid out the exact same amount of money, my plan for what I'm doing with that money is actually staying pretty much the exact same too. From a high level, at least it is. So I want to continue to invest $2,000 a month and then spend from the other $2,459 a month. Now, I actually feel really content and emotionally happy with this decision. I feel like every year it's different, right? There's the facts about money, how much you're getting paid, spending, saving, investing, all of that. And then there's the emotions beside it and how it makes you feel. And with this amount, it just feels like a good amount of money. It works with our life and our lifestyle right now. I'm so happy that Dennis and I are both being paid out this amount of money and can each do this. We have a good chunk of money that's being invested every single month. And again, like I said, this is the first year where we've had that big $2,000 a month every single month that we were able to invest, and then different lump sums and bonuses on top of that. And it just feels really good. I know that it'll feel good again this year. So I'm really happy. I'm really excited for this year, and we'll see what happens and changes. But for now, this plan is one that I feel very good with. I actually really want to highlight that and talk a little bit more about it. I feel like people, especially when they're young, when they think about budgeting, investing, pretty much both of those topics, they feel like it's a negative thing. Maybe it's boring, it's a chore. Just in general, it's not positive emotions with it. It's more on the upset side of things. For me personally, I feel so much peace by knowing where my money's going, knowing that I'm investing a good chunk of my money for the future. I don't know. I don't even feel like it's I can try and explain it, but I feel like unless you feel it yourself, you don't really realize. I feel like a lot of people who say that budgeting is a negative thing and investing as well, they haven't actually tried it or done it. You know what I mean? They're instead just living day to day. They feel like it wouldn't be helpful. If you actually try it, I don't know. I feel like that's when you realize how much peace it can bring you. I feel like that's the best word. I just feel empowered with the investing side and then peaceful with the budgeting side. Now, also, don't get me wrong, just because we're investing big chunks of money, for me personally, I'll at least speak for me, I'm definitely still spending a lot of money on having fun too. I eat at a lot of great restaurants. I've got really expensive haircuts. If you've seen that video, you know. I buy clothes. I definitely spend in these different entertainment areas too. But I've realized, and I'm at a place where I can do both just by planning it out. Now, I will also say, obviously, I'm blessed to be able to do that too. Sometimes there are expenses that you can't control, but a mix of just the situation that Dennis and I are in and the intentional expenses that we've planned into our budget and the intentional investing that we've done, it's just a good mix of everything. So I just really wanted to highlight that too, that I feel like it's really a mindset shift for the negative to the positive when it comes to these things that you're doing still for yourself. Budgeting and investing is still only for you, and it only helps helps you if you wanted to. Okay, so now let's talk about my investment strategy for 2025. Right now, as everything sits at the very, very end of 2024, my TFSA is maxed out and my FHSA is maxed out. But as soon as the clock strikes midnight on January 1st, I'm gonna have more contribution room added to both of those accounts. That's how they work as registered accounts. Every year you get more. For the TFSA, it's a set limit, and then for the FHSA, it's $8,000 per year until you hit your lifetime limit. Now, what that means for me is that I'll get, like I said, $7,000 added to my TFSA and $8,000 added to my FHSA. Basically, my plan to start the year is to not invest my year-end bonus money, so that $8,000 that I said I'd be investing from my $10,000 bonus, I'm not going to invest that until I get that new room added, and then I'm going to start by maxing out my TFSA for the year right away, so that's done. It's completely filled up. But like I said, I'll still have $1,000 left over because the contribution room will be $7,000. I'll have $8,000 to invest. So with that other $1,000, I'll put that towards my FHSA. Then after that's done, for the first 4 months of the year, so January, February, March, and April, I'll allocate my $2,000 a month investment contribution to my FHSA until that's maxed out. I guess I'll only need $1,000 of it in April specifically. So halfway through April, I'll do that and also start contributing to my RSP as well. And then moving on from there, May through the December, I'll put my $2,000 monthly investment contribution into my RSP instead. Now, I don't think that'll hit my contribution room max in my RSP with that $16,000 or $17,000. I have to do the math on that. We'll do a video coming soon where I talk more in depth about my numbers, but I don't think I'll max it out. So that should work out. That's how I'll be able to allocate between all the different investment accounts. In terms of how I'm going to be investing, I'm also going to be sticking for the second year in a row now with Wealthsimple's self-directed investment platform, which means that I'm investing by myself, DIY approach still, and I'm also going to be investing in the exact same accounts and investment options inside of those accounts. So for me specifically, I buy an ETF that's called XEQT inside of my TFSA and FHSA, and then I buy a different ETF called VXC inside of my RSP. Now, we did a bunch of different videos actually this year that explains why I invest in those specific ETFs inside of those specific investment accounts, so make sure you check those out if you're curious. So if I kind of predict forward into where I should be at the end of 2025, I should have invested another $24,000 just for my monthly investment contributions, hopefully more than that, but at least $24,000. I also should have a remaxed out TFSA, a remaxed out FHSA, and I should be close to maxing out my RSP. Okay, so as always, the last thing that I need to touch on are my budget updates for 2025. Now, Dennis and I always use our budget template that we made. Now, we actually just finished making some updates and some tweaks to it for the new year. So if you want to grab it, it's always in our description box down below. It's free, by the way, in case I didn't say that, but it'll be in the description box down below and then also up on screen here for you too. Now, I'm going to actually pull up my laptop and then walk you through my new budget template for the next year, and then also walk you through my specific different budget categories and goal amounts. Okay, so I have my laptop now and let's walk through it. It's actually really exciting to see this because we just updated our budget templates. Everything's new and fresh in here. You can see first my standard monthly budget. So this is basically all the main categories that I spend in on a monthly basis, and then my goal amount for those different categories. I haven't made any major changes this year from last year. It's just like little tweaks that I'll walk you through. And then anything that I don't spend in on a monthly basis, that's at $0, but it's still in here because I know I'll spend on it at some point throughout the year. So I'll talk more about that in a second. Now, if you actually look at my categories, rent, it got increased in the middle of last year. So for this year, I'm budgeting $970 a month. Internet keeping the same for now. We actually have to do another renegotiation for the new year, so we'll see if it changes slightly, but it's going to be fairly accurate to this. Utilities, I always budget $30. It's always somewhere around there at the top end. Normally, if it's a little bit less than that. Again, keep in mind those budget amounts, by the way, is for me personally. You guys probably already know that, but if it sounds low, that's why. Groceries is an interesting one. So last year, we budgeted $300 a month each, both Dennis and I, but we ended up spending about $330 a month each on average. So I'm going to up our budget amount to $325 now. I feel like it's accurate. I was pretty happy with how we went about spending on groceries and the different methods we took to try and keep our costs low. So if that's where we ended up, it's probably accurate to where we'll be again next year, as long as we keep our eye on things again. So that's the grocery budget. Restaurants, I'm sticking with $150 a month. I went over that. You guys saw that my average was closer to $190 a month, but I'm going to really try and keep it to this next year. So I want to keep my budget amount the same. Same with coffee shops. I was under budget, so budgeting $50 a month worked out well for me. Public transportation, I'm keeping at $50. That's been the same for years now. Taxi services, I already said I was going to change this to Ubers. Let me do that right now for this year because that's all I actually take. I don't take taxis. It's all Ubers. So that's at $0 a month. It's one of those categories that I'll spend in here and there, but I'm not trying to, so I don't budget an amount for it. Massage therapist, the same. Personal care, I'm keeping at $150. I liked that amount. My subscriptions is just Spotify. It went up a little bit. It's like $2 more per month now, which actually kind of sucks, but I updated that amount for my budget too. And then you'll see that my other category has like $536.95 in there. That's basically just like the amounts that I can budget every dollar from my $2,459 a month that I'm trying to spend. But a big chunk is in other because that's going to kind of capture and make up for like if I spend in clothing, if I spend on the dentist, if I spend, what else is zero? Any of those zeroed out categories, that's kind of all going to come into like that other piece. So I'm kind of budgeting for everything else in that one section, doing it that way. So that's it for all of my different expense categories specifically and how much I'm going to aim to spend per month in them. I also have my income up here. So for me, I just have the one income source, our salary that we pay ourselves out, $4,459.91 a month. You can see down below in this table, I outlined the different investing accounts that I use. Specifically for me, it's my TFSA, FHSA, and RRSP. My first goal of the year is going to be putting money towards my FHSA, so that's why I have that filled out. You guys already heard that my TFSA is going to be covered by my bonus lump sum investment, so that's why I'm going on to the FHSA first. FHSA. You can see that my leftover is zero because I tried to budget it down to every dollar, right, with that big chunk in my other, so that makes sense. If you were using this template, it would show you how much you have left over to actually like save for yourself too. And then I also have my big expenses to keep in mind. I think these are just important to have here because they're, again, things that aren't going to happen on a monthly basis, but I want to make sure that I'm prepared for. So I kind of think through these at the beginning of the year. One new addition this year, so dentist appointments the same. I think I upped the amount because I spent about $650 last year. Christmas gifts, hair appointment as well, up that to $800. We'll see. I'm not set on doing the exact same hair appointment this year, but want to make sure I have it in mind. And then the other thing is Dennis and I are going to go to the Kendrick Lamar concert next year, so that's another big expense. I feel like it was worth putting in the big expense category too. Okay, so that's it for my main tab. Really quickly, I'll just show you guys the other tabs in here. For bank accounts, if you guys used our template last year, you'll see that this little graph here is a new addition for the year, which is fun. It's going to actually be able to track your net worth and total investments throughout the year, so I'm really excited to see that visually for myself. I am a visual person, so I'm really happy about that, just for me personally too, that we made that change. But this is where I'm going to continue to track all of my different bank accounts each month. I really liked doing this last year. I feel like I really saw a big change, right, from my January total to my December. So I really like having the actual like stats and what happened on a monthly basis, even though you can always see it in your app. It kind of doesn't give you like the moment in time. So that's what I like this tab for. And then my monthly expense tracker, this is where I'm actually going to be putting in all of my different transactions throughout the month. So for example, first of the month, I already filled some out here for you guys. First of the month, I know my Spotify payment is going to go through. From my credit card, it's $14.34. And then it automatically goes into this like actual table for myself. So if I go down to subscriptions, you can see that it was on budget. Obviously, an expense like that I know will be. Things like groceries might not be, right? It's different every single month, so it's fun to track it in here. Also, I put my Ticketmaster Kendrick Lamar tickets in January too. Technically, I already bought them, but for me, it's like a January and a New Year thing for myself, so I put that in here too. Since we're in the template right now, I might as well show you the annual budget as well. Looks very similar to last year, but again, it's gonna have all my totals. This tab is fully automated, so I'm not inputting anything in here. I can just see everything. On a yearly basis, it's really fun. Obviously, I just got to see all of 2024 wrapped up, which is nice, but also on a monthly basis, I personally like to go in here. So in January, I can see exactly how much I made, how much I spent, how much I saved and in which account, and then also how much I spent total per category in this column as well. So that's the updated budget categories and template for the new year. Reminder again, if you want to use it yourself, it's in the description box below, also linked up here on screen, and it is free. So if I do say so myself, I really like it. So that's it for my money overview and strategy for next year. Please let me know how your year went and also what your plans are for next year in the comments below. I genuinely really love hearing all of your updates too. I feel like you guys share some really cool stuff and have hit some great milestones as well. So please let me know those down in the comments below. Also, keep an eye out on our channel over the next few weeks. I feel like some of my favorite videos of the entire year are the ones that we do at the beginning of the year with our updates that go more in depth on some of these topics, right? So like I said, investing result updates, all of the different fun, deeper updates are going to be coming very soon. So stay tuned for those. And in the meantime, have a very happy new year.